Well, that intro video never gets old. Always makes me smile that when I hear that song. Right, what have we got today? Welcome to CodeZone 56. Let's try layers, but we'll try layers in a moment. Firstly, apologies for last week. I was planning to do a code zone, then things like family and that sort of rubbish gets in the way. But now, yep, and apologies for Tuesday, which is when we normally would be doing code zone, but today we're doing it. It's happening. We're here. So let's see who we got here. I don't think we've got that many people here today because it's not really been well announced. But we have got Morris and Bableur75. At least in the chats. Yeah, okay, good. So, why have I got the random email of somebody on the Discord server? Bixie, hello. Bo9U, excellent. Well, if you ponder on the Discord server, there was a chap recently who has been trying to get in touch with me regarding the Logitech G13. Now, the Logitech G13, for those that don't know, I've got one here, let me just make sure you can all see it, is a sort of an assistive keyboard device. And it's got a little joystick on it, and I use it for a variety of things. I've mapped a load of stuff in Elite Dangerous to it, I've mapped a load of stuff in Flight Simulator to it, but I've also... hello. Johnny G, thank you very much. Cheers. But I've also mapped DaVinci Resolve and sort of my video editing software and things like that. And it's actually a very handy sort of macro keyboard thing, which is all centered around one hand. So it's good for video editing. I like to use my thumb on the joystick to zoom in and pan across the video and that sort of thing. But I thought I would start the stream just with a quick look at this email because... firstly, when I get a lot of emails, and sometimes you think these are sort of the ramblings of a madman, but actually this is a good way to actually ask for help. It is quite wordy. It's a bit long, and I'm going to try and keep the guy somewhat anonymous. But what happens is the guy's giving me lots of useful information about solving his problem. Assuming it's a guy, I think it's a guy, and. He's got a problem with sort of how to set up the G13. Now, I didn't know the G13 is now obsolete. Now, you can't get it, and he's complaining that he's had problems with making it obsolete, and he doesn't seem to be able to work out how to get it to set some keys. And it occurred to me, I've not tried setting any keys on my G13 for at least 5 years. I can't remember how to do it. Does the software still work? What's going on? Basically, once I've got it set up, I just don't care anymore. It just works. I just thought we'd just start the stream just with a quick look at this video. So the guy's provided all this sort of like information and screenshots of what he wants to achieve with it. I did a video about programming one of these things to display Twitch chat on the little built-in LCD display, and I don't think we're anything like that. I think the guy just needs somebody to look at how do we make the keyboard do what it needs to do. So I'm just going to quickly start with that, and I'll have a look. So this is the software that it comes with. As you can see, I've got it mapped to a few things. As far as I'm aware, it's actually very, very simple to map the keys. You create a key. Let's create a new one. So let's do G14. I don't seem to be using that one at the moment. So G14, assign a new command, and I can go to it. And let's say when I press this one, I want it to press the key. Capital A. There we are, Shift and A. So all I've done there is press Shift and A on my keyboard. And I can click Add. Now that seems to add it to a list on the left-hand side here. You can add actually all sorts of different things, but let's just stick with a keystroke. And then you can drag that over to the key that you're interested in applying it to. So I've applied that to G14. Now this is all a bit unknown. I've not tested this. So if I now open up a text editor, there's a text editor, and I press G14, it doesn't seem to do anything. And maybe this is where the confusion is starting to lie. So let's try and explore this a little bit and see why does that not happen. And then we'll get back to doing some regular code stuff if we can't get this working. Because I have no idea what's going on. Let's just have a quick look. Who have we got? So we've got Johnny G63. Hello. Desp. Hello. Speedy. Hello. Oh, we've got quite a few people here tonight. Ali Fixit. Hello. And Kit Carson. Hello. Right, so do I need to select a specific profile? Well, it looks like it's lit up with this profile. Let's just select that one just in case. I've got the key mapped over there. That seems okay. If I press Shift and A regularly in my text editor, hopefully it should just type the letter A. But it doesn't seem to do anything when I press the G14 key. So I'm wondering if this is the same sort of problem that this fella's having. Let's have a look. Let's edit the command. What do we need to do? Hold Shift and A. I don't want it to repeat. I'm not doing multi-keys. It should just emulate that keystroke, right? Maybe I need to click apply or something. Is that really the problem? That once you've started it, it's not active? I don't know. Anybody in the chat, any ideas? Well, that doesn't seem to work. Let's launch it again. Pull up the software. G14, what's going on? G14 seems to be mapped. Don't know. Do we have any G13 keyboard experts that could help us out? G14. I think it's just I've not got it on the right profile. So let's I press the M1 key. Oh, so okay, so that does work. I can move those around. So on M1 profile, which is what I'm on now, press the G14. Nothing at all. Let's try something simpler. Let's try just G8 assign new command. Let's just get that to do a very simple key. Let's just get that to do A. Add. Okay, macro already exists. Okay, so we can see A, and if I press this one, no, see that doesn't work either. So yeah, something up there. Don't know. Intuitively, it should update as soon as you set it, right? Because I have another keyboard, my Steel Series keyboard. Let me find where that one is. That's constantly pestering me for updates. There we go. Oh, go away. What's this rubbish? And I can set all sorts of macros on this one as well. But this one does just kind of work as you expect. You can select the keys and it just works. Right? So is there something recently that Windows has disabled about G13? I don't know. That's what I need to look into. So likely the OSS version of the driver allows mapping through X input. Oh, here we go. All the Windows jokes coming in now. See, I would expect it to just type. It doesn't seem to do that. I wonder if we can create it. Let's create a new profile, a new one. Test profile. Let's try that. Games and apps that use this profile. It doesn't matter. I just want it to use everything. Right. Why won't it even let me select OK? I really have to type in a description. Oh, is it that? Now, is this the problem? That it generally isn't actually that generic. It needs to be assigned to something. Okay, let's try that then. Add application from game panel. Choose application. I'm not doing that. Follow the steps on game panel. No idea what that means. Nothing has popped up. Nothing at all. So I'm wondering if the Logitech software is just doesn't work anymore. Has it just sort of stopped? Have a look. M1, M2. Because I know it still works when I'm using DaVinci Resolve. So I go over to my DaVinci Resolve profile. So the screen will change on the keyboard and actually come up with DaVinci Resolve. So they're the things I've got mapped to quickly sort of zoom about. Elite Dangerous. Elite Dangerous actually came with a mapping, which I thought was really pretty cool. Didn't have to do anything for that. But trying to do default profile. No, it doesn't seem to want to work. Doesn't seem to want to play. Can't get it to work. Let's just double check that it is actually assigning the right macro. Let's edit it. What do I want it to do? Functions. You can get it to start things up. Get it to do voice command things. You can get it to do like a sequence of events. But yeah, I can't seem to get it. Repeat options. Let's try that while pressed. So we'll just get it to work like a normal key, perhaps. Okay. See, I would expect that now to be live, right? As soon as you change it, it doesn't seem to be. And there doesn't seem to be anything to click to update anything either. Settings. Run this program when Windows starts. Allow that. Etc. Etc. No, nothing. Don't know. Let's try assigning that to use generic. Oh, 3. Nope, no numbers coming through there either. Oh well. I guess to answer this fella, I'll have to look at it again. I'll do it offline. I don't want to waste all the stream looking into this problem. Let's have a quick look. No hot task for Elite. Well, of course I have a hot task for Elite. Weird thing is it does register the changing of the macro page. Yeah, everything seems to be working. So it even recognises the key shots. So that does seem to be quite tricky. Does that second page work? I think I saw letters on that page. So if I choose the Elite, if I choose the DaVinci Resolve one. So if I've got this profile on here, this is, yeah, the DaVinci Resolve profile. So this is the problem, right? So you can choose DaVinci Resolve. I want default profile. Oh, save. Hang on, save. Is that what I need to choose? Oh, let's try that. No. Oh. So that one's done Control and F3. Shift and A is not working. I don't know why Control and F3 is bringing up a save as dialog. So it's bringing up something. Test profile. So there's me pressing the keys on it. So it's certainly registering the events. And look, it's even saying this is key 3. That's what we wanted it to type in, wasn't it? Well, that one's doing Control and F3, and that one's doing Shift and then A. So yeah, it is actually alive. It just doesn't seem to apply them to the application that's got in focus. And I think that's because it has to be tied to an application in order to work. So let's just test that theory. If I wanted to now set this profile to be for a specific application, where did we see that? I've forgotten already. Oh, set as persistent. Let's try that, set as persistent. Oh, there we go, set as persistent. Right. So there we are. We've managed to get the keys to work. So I should be able to take a, let's say, G13, assign a new command, and what I want it to do is, I don't know, we'll type in let's do multi-key, is it that one? Or text block. Name, whatever. OLC. Hello. Let's try that. So it should just be able to, we'll use a delay between the characters. Why not? Because that might look pretty cool. Let's do 250 millisecond delay. We'll add that as a rule. It's for some reason called Shift and L. So let's assign that then to G12. There we are. G12. If I go on here and press G12, OLC, hello, there we go. Very nice. Okay, it does work. The trick here was to set as persistent. Now, I guess you do actually have to tie it to an application. So there we go. Right, good. I'm glad that we've managed to sort that one out. And what we can do now is in the OLC CodeZone chat on the Discord server, we can now link the guy into the start of this video, and it just saves a lot of faffing about. But let's get back to CodeZone. Good, we can get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, and get rid of the email. And, oh, we can all save our eyes again. That's good, isn't it? So yeah, terrible user interface design there. I would expect anything where you're editing macros for it all to be very, very live so you can test things. Right, where are we with all of this? Oh, Eternia just subscribed via Twitch. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Where are we with this editor? Right, well, the truth is, even though we've not had a CodeZone for a couple of weeks, I have actually been squirreling away, doing all sorts of refactoring and things behind the scenes. And I'm not going to do one big long refactoring video. simply because I'm quite keen to work on the next stage. But I will show you how far that we got so far, just to remind those that might not be that familiar with the project. We got this far. Where we've got a project in the top corner, and we've got some properties for that project, and we've got a variety of different editors. And what I've been working on, it was actually really complicated, and I'm not kidding, it was really complicated, was linking the things here to the things in the display. So as we're moving around between the different things, it will load the right window. It doesn't do it backwards, and that's quite deliberate. I want some disconnect between the two, because I want to be able to perhaps look at something whilst I alter the properties of something else that's selected. So I don't want it to sort of be a really rigid link. I want some flexibility. The other thing that I worked on was, if you recall, when we added new things to this, the whole tree collapsed and had to be redrawn and reopened. So now, hopefully, if I add another image pack, it doesn't do that anymore. It remembers the position. So we've added some intelligence to the tree. I think I had some sort of like junk thing pop up then. Yeah, thank you, Morris. Thank you for that. Yeah, we don't want any of these nonsense offers. Right, so that's actually now sort of a good usability feature. Now, I've also fixed a bug that's been bothering me since the start, and it's a bug which I've been a bit secret about not telling you that it's there, because I didn't know what the solution was, and it was all rather embarrassing. So this bug was a focus bug. When you select on something in here, you couldn't edit it straight away. And it turns out, and hopefully if any WX Widgets dev ever watch this, and I know that some of you do, it turns out if you add a property grid control to a WX AUI notepad page, something eats the focus on the very first click. I might look into it. I might try and submit a fix, but we'll see. For the time being, I've worked around it by not using the tabs. Now, you remember these windows used to be in tabs, but there's no need for them to be in tabs. They don't need to be moved around. They're always going to be there. All the other tabs work just fine. It just seemed to be that this control was too complicated for the thing that was containing it. And so there was some conflict between the mouse clicks. So you click on it, it would eat the event, and then you couldn't type anything until you clicked off it and then clicked on it again. A bit frustrating. Let's load up something. So do you want to save this workspace before closing? No. And we'll open up this one. This is sort of been my default test one. There's nothing pretty at all going on here. We can have a look. We've got the asset pack. It's only got one asset on it, which is this one. And if you recall on the editor, we then got all the selection stuff working, and you can select various things, and then you can do things with that selection. We had like sort of rather cool sort of selection tools to work with. And once you've got a selection up, you can then go and build things with that selection set. And so this is a construction. I was building some pretty diamonds. I was wondering how to get that to work. And if you drag this over here, let's say we want both on the screen at the same time. Let's go back to our construction. You can select live here, and it appears here for placement. See, you can click all over the place and place those tiles. We can pick this strip, and we can click over here too. And we had other sort of interesting things too. So if you start to change the properties of the static tile source, so let's say I changed the offset of the tiles, they actually change sort of live. And everything, that's the whole purpose of this editor. It's meant to be kind of intuitive for doing sort of the setup. We don't have to worry about getting things working very well. There we go. That's nice, right? It's so dark. It's so dark, is it? This one, oh, this side. Yeah, I did actually dial the darkness back a bit on that one. Did you change the volume of these sounds? Yes, after many complaints. It also means that the introductory theme is also quieter, Bixie. So yeah, that's the price we have to pay. So what is the next phase? Well, we can take it in one of two directions. I've got to start working on painting tools. So at the moment I can just click, and that's all I've got. I'm happy with that so far, but it's not really that useful for creating levels. But I can either go and start working on sort of more sophisticated tooling, but I think that might be a bit of a leap for a fairly short stream. But I thought tonight it'd be good to actually start working on layers. I have no code at all for handling multiple layers of static tiles within a construction. I don't even have a way of adding another layer to the construction. So I thought that might actually be a place to start. How do we go about doing this? Don't know. We're going to have to look at some code. We are genuinely doing all of this live. So if you didn't know, there was actually an unofficial CodeZone stream on the Discord server. It went on for about 3 hours, and we went through all sorts of edge cases and tidying up and trying to make things a lot more robust, a lot more refactoring again. It's starting to come together as quite a sophisticated application. In fact, there is a lot of files associated with this project now. There we go. So it's one of the larger sort of hobby projects that I've been working on. Let's close that down and let's start looking at layers. So what I'd like to do is be able to have background and foreground layers, in fact, any number of layers. And at the moment I'm going to stick with static tiles because that's easy enough to understand and work with, and later on we're going to add various different types of layers too. Alter, hello. Dragoneye, hello, good to see you. We're doing it live. Well, we're going to try and start doing it live because one of the problems with a big project like this is, of course, I've written zero documentation, as all good programmers should. And it's also trying to remember where we got to with these rather complicated constructions and layers. And part of the bloat to all of this is just to try and make it this robust base. So let's get started with trying to do some layers. And I think the best place to look to begin is here. There we are. So I brought up this file. This is our construction layer editor panel. You won't have seen this before. This is actually a new thing, and it needed to exist because it occurred to me when I was working on the tree that I have constructions and static tile sources and asset packs, but I actually have all sorts of other work objects which have other priorities within that hierarchy. And it started to become quite a polymorphic nightmare to get things to work. You may recall I did actually have some multiple inheritance with all of these editors that inherited from both this editor interface class, which kind of ties it into the GUI environment, and the control itself. So the actual sort of GUI widgets and the editor tooling. I've actually got rid of that. I removed the multiple inheritance to allow me to use polymorphism with a little less bloat and a little less hard work. There's some things you shouldn't do with polymorphism and multiple inheritance, and I was doing them. That's fundamentally it. And things didn't work, and it gets quite cryptic as to why things don't work, because some of your base pointers and things don't get initialized properly, and particularly when you're starting to do dynamic casts with all of these shared pointers all over, it just all started to fall apart. So I got rid of the multiple inheritance, but the cost of doing so was that now I have to split my editors into two classes. The first is the class which basically extends the editor interface, so that's the thing that the GUI understands, and we have some things like set these tile selections, and it populates the property list and all the stuff that is consistent for all the different types of editors. But now within that there is an additional editor panel, which we can see a construction layer editor panel, which is the editing tool itself. So it's like we've got the editing tool we had before, but we've now wrapped it in a container, which we're now sticking in this GUI environment. So that's it. Onions have layers. They do alter, they do. Took a page out of Jared's book, document the header. Exactly. But I've got quite a lot of headers now. I will actually have to start writing some documentation at some point, because it's kind of getting to the point where it's a little unmanageable. I can't remember everything. And that's what we're going to see tonight, rather embarrassingly. Because I have cryptically got here a variable, a protected member variable, called selected layer. That sounds encouraging, doesn't it? That sounds like the one we want. And I've conveniently commented it, layer selection stuff. So... there's literally nothing in it. Now I'm assuming that if we just run the application again, that if we had multiple layers in our tree, here we go. So we have constructions. Constructions have multiple layers. That this highlighted thing here is the that variable there. However, they're not linked, so that's the first set of problems to do. How do we actually set this value, and then what do we do with it once we've set it? So let's go and let's explore what the code should be doing. I'm assuming that we will be able to set this value somewhat simply. But let's go and see what's dependent on it in here. So if I do a quick Control F and selected layer, there we go. And we'll just have a look. There's not that many things, but we'll start at the top. So when we're drawing the construction, looks like we're finding the selected layer, and we're so the whole point. You know, we'll document this as we go along. So the point of this is all of the layers at the moment are based on grids, but the grids can have all sorts of different size properties. But we only want to draw one, and we only want the user to interact with one grid at a time. In fact, we only want it to be the grid of the selected layer. So we want to be configuring the grid properties for user interaction. With the properties of the selected layer. Right. There we go. Oh, and a quick shout out to Speedy. Sorry, Speedy, I got a DM from you, which I didn't see until sort of literally about 10 minutes before starting. Thank you for your concern. Cheers. And just to let people know that Darby Blood in the OLC Discord CodeZone chat is the guy that was asking about the Logitech G13 thing. So I would suggest watching this stream from the start, but I think we figured it out. If not, I'll link him the video later on. Right, so that's the first place we're using it. Let's have a look. And look, this is a first. Where's Charnel Mouse? Where is he? Where's Technic Gel? We're doing code in CodeZone. Look at this. This is unusual. So that's the first thing. So we want to select these grids. Right. Okay. We're entering the function. Yeah, this is good, isn't it? Look at this. Right? It's almost a complete triangle going into the screen. So let's have a look whether changing mSelected layer causes us any problems. Yeah, right, so we're going to need wider monitors. Where's Saladin when you need him? So it looks like, firstly, I'm just checking, is the construction locked? Is this currently selected layer, is it valid? That's probably not a necessary check to do. Is that then a tiled layer? That's quite an important check, because at the moment we're only supporting tiled layers, but there are other base types of layers. Then what are we doing? Doesn't look like we're doing very much at the moment, so it's just like the layer is okay. Because by the time we've got to... it looks like this. So then we're rendering through all of the layers. Okay. Let's just tag that in. So this is on mouse left up, isn't it? So... Ooh, that's interesting, because at the moment it's only assuming there's one layer. Look at that. There's a potential bug. So... well, yeah, why is it iterating through all of the layers? Don't know. We might need to explore that a little bit. Then we're looking at the type of the layer because, yeah, okay, the mouse needs to interact with the different fundamental types slightly differently. That's painting tiles, but we seem to have lost this MN selected layer thing. Don't know why we need to go through all of the layers there. I think that's probably not accurate. But other than that, that's basically it. So, okay, that's not too bad. Yeah, I don't know why it's decided to go through all the layers. I must have thought that was a good idea. Doesn't need to do that at all. We could just, instead, get that base layer and apply the tiles to it. Yeah, okay, that's a problem. Yeah, this is a good one. This isn't it? Yeah, don't worry. I've had all the flack from everybody that cares. It's not going to stay this way. This is me hacking out an idea. until I'm happy with it. Then I'll start to turn it into functions and reusable bits. But this is the sort of all of the different checks that need to go through in order to make sure that the interface remains fluid. So the idea is that my design principle is I don't want to sort of pester the user with, you have not selected the right thing. It just doesn't do anything. It just fails safe all the time. So if you've not got the quite, unless it's critically important to let them know. That's the kind of thing that I'm always checking for. Let's have a quick drink as well. Yeah, it's not very often you actually do have to scroll sideways to keep up with this. So I think that is our first problem. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Tell you what, we'll set a breakpoint there just to flag that as something I care about. Let's go and have a look what's going on down here. So this looks like it's just checking again against the current grid size for the selected layer, and it's applying on tile left up. So it's not actually applying that to the specific layer. Okay, we might have lots of interesting things to think about here. Reducing nesting by putting code in smaller functions and returning from those. Yeah, no, that's the right way to do it, right? When it gets this sort of silly big, it's time to start breaking it up. The other option, of course, is a lot of these can actually be combined. If you've got if, right, you can combine that into a single line. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not. It depends. But certainly when we're iterating through here, all of this content should probably be a single function. In fact, that might actually be beneficial for us in this scenario. Right, so other than that, it looks like we're just doing checks on the mouse events, but I've got a feeling this might also come back to sting us because the tile functions for view tiles, we're going to have a look at what's going on there too. They're not actually related to the layers, that's just the GUI interface. But when I change the layer, I need to update the view tiles, I think, with this cursor information. We'll have to have a look at that as we go. So, well, first things first, we actually need a second layer to work with and start to see what happens. I'm not going to faff about with GUIs and menus and things to add that layer. I'm just going to do it straight up programmatically and add 2 layers to the basic starting package. Let's have a look. So if we go to GUI mainframe and we find our new project. Ugh. I hate these windows don't populate themselves. If you're slightly out of scope, so if I click here, they just go blank. And that's really frustrating. So if I click here, then it becomes sort of relevant. So we're going to have do workspace new, and it's here do workspace new. We create a new construction. Oh, I did add. I told you we were working on the tree is now slightly more intelligent. I actually had to make a custom tree. That doesn't sound anywhere near as scary as you might think. It really is just an override of the existing WX widgets tree, but I've kind of tailored some of its stuff to understanding what the project's workspace looks like. So just have a quick look at this because I think it is quite interesting that I have this workspace changed. I can freeze the component, which stops it from doing those GUI updates, which make it doesn't flicker. And then I'm basically checking the construction of the tree against the construction of the project, item by item, just sort of not recursing, but traveling through all of the children of children, etc. And then setting up the appropriate links with this workspace tree link. And it's this that defines the object that's been selected in the tree. And it's that's then passed around in the mouse events and things to open up the right windows. So it's a bit repetitive again. This will probably all be functioned as well. It's really the same thing over and over again for each fundamental object in the workspace, all the different classifications. We've only got 3 at the moment: asset packs, static tile sources, and constructions. And then it goes Thor. And that allows, so basically as you're iterating through, you don't want it sort of changing all of the tree in real time. It'll flicker a lot and move about. So this seems to work quite nicely to keep the tree consistent. You can see it's just an override of the existing tree control. Which takes me back to, we now need to find our construction work object because by default, this one, there we go. So this is, at the moment, programmatically, where we're adding that single layer. in theory, it should just be a case of selecting that and putting it twice, and that's now added 2 layers to the base object. Let's just double check that that's the case, because it might be worthwhile setting up a project now with those 2 layers, but also with an asset in the background, so we're not having to do that over and over again. Oh, we need the compile music. Hey, we figured that out, by the way. We figured out how to set up compile sounds in Visual Studio. I say we, pretty much it was Magetsup that figured it out. And it turns out it's built into Windows. Would you believe it? It's actually built into Windows. So if I go to the volume control and open up sound settings, I think it is. I need the old school Windows sound settings. Was it this one? Sound control panel? I think we're getting there. We're getting there. Yeah, so go to sounds like this. Right, check this out, right? This is a Windows thing that's been in Windows since, I don't know, Windows 1. This dialogue. You keep scrolling down this list for a bit. Look at this. It's actually built in. It's built into the list. How amazing is that? So we should be able to set up some interesting riffs and things for successful compiles and all that. I mean, why this is a feature here, I have no idea. But, you know, kudos Microsoft for sticking that into the system menu rather than the tool. Right, that compiled okay. So let's just run that. And what we should see now is the default project starts up with 2 static tile constructions. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. I'm going to sneeze. Oh dear. And that's the other one. Oh, there we go. There's always 2 sneezes. So we've got our 2 static tile layers there. Thank you, PhD Jack. Thank you, Babler75. Thank you, Danny Cron, Johnny G, Bixie, everybody. Thank you very much. There's nothing better, and it's a sponsorship moment, nothing better than Coca-Cola out of a glass bottle. Now, so the next thing to start worrying about is how do we get this to choose the appropriate layer in our editor. Well, let's save off this project. Let's actually add some assets to it first, so we don't have to do this each and every time. So I'm going to go to assets, and we're just going to load up. It would be better to actually have something that's a bit more scenery rather than a bunch of objects like this. I'll tell you what, we'll do both. Yeah, okay. So we'll add that one up, and I'm just going to jump over to my H drive Humble Bundle and add up Morris's one, the one that Morris found for me, that one. Yeah, so we've got our 2 asset packs. One's a bit more sort of traditional platformer sort of thing. Let's go over and let's create some static tile sources for those now. So we go to the static tile source. Let's go and populate this properly. We'll call this one arcade items. I don't have any specific notes for it, but the asset that we're going to choose to give it is that one. And I know that the size for this one is 32. And we'll have a look at how many different tiles there are. I can't remember. There's that many that way, and oh, there's quite a lot going this way, so let's just zip that down. There we go. Perfect. Right, so that's arcade items sorted, and we'll just save this workspace as workspaces. We'll save this now as test 3. We have a new one. Test 3. Let's now add another static tile source. Add a static tile source. And this one we're going to be, choose the asset, we'll have the nature one. We'll call that nature platformer. This one's a bit smaller, isn't it? It does look like it's already 16 by 16, so that's good. We'll bring that down one. Very good. We'll just save the workspace again. So now we've got 2 static tile sources. If I pulled these out over here, so this is the intended use. We're finally starting to sort of see things come together. I'll just make that big. Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. It's kind of behind my beautiful visage there. So I'll tell you what, I'll move that over there. and put that there. We'll go to the construction. The idea being is that you can select from this one and go click. Oh, I put a breakpoint in, didn't I? There we go. Let's get rid of that breakpoint and carry on. There we go. I can go click, 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 and paint with that one, and then I can select from this one and go click, 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 and we can have multi-resolution sort of pixel graphics and that sort of thing. Whether that's your thing or not, I don't know. But the nice thing is it doesn't actually forget what you've been doing, so you can quickly sort of snap back and forth between the different editing sources. And these can be all sorts of interesting shapes too. Let's choose. Let's select nothing. Clear selection. We'll choose a more interesting shape. So that's on that one, and this one's still that block. So we can come back and get the block, and we can easily sort of dip between the two different sources. I think it's quite a nice way to edit, but what we're trying to do is add layers. So we can put some background stuff in one layer, and we can put some foreground stuff in the next. Let's just have a quick look. Jimmy, you need to do a good VHDL tutorial. Do you know, I've got a bit of a hankering to do some VHDL. I've not done any for quite some time now. But yeah, I'm actually thinking about it. Is the world moving towards Verilog these days? I think people that use Verilog will say that it is. But I think VHDL, there's something nice about VHDL. It's like it's semantically complete. It won't work at all unless it's entirely correct. That's what I like about it. Thanks, Speedy. Yeah, sorry about that. What happens is if I get DMs and they go to my mobile, typically it goes buzz, buzz, buzz in my pocket, and I'll just quickly scan it open. But I don't have time to sort of interact and read it and reply. And this happens to everybody that DMs me via Discord. It seems to be a flaw with how Discord is put together. The DMs, so then they disappear. So by the time I get home and log onto a computer or something, I've got no notification anymore to tell me that it's happened. So it just happens out of order, I'm afraid. So there we go. Let's, yeah, I did save this, I think. So we want to add some layers. So I guess now we want to somehow tie together these two layers. The layers should be able to have different size properties as well. That's quite interesting. Not quite sure what will happen in this event. So this layer is 16 by 16, 100 by 100 pixels. If I actually change this, what happens? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, look, it's drawing the two layers. It's drawing them twice because of that for loop, and that's I think is our problem. Or no, it's not. It's drawing the two layers accurately, which is really encouraging. Didn't even realize it was doing that. But I'm drawing into both layers simultaneously because of that erroneous for loop. Fascinating stuff, huh? Okay, so actually we've probably got most of the gubbins already in place, which is a good sign, right? There's something nice when your boilerplate code starts to write itself. And this kind of thing starts to happen. So even though this looks like a big horrible mess, what it's telling me is quite a lot of the stuff behind the scenes is actually already working for us. And this is the ultimate goal. It should be very easy to start adding things and functionalities to this tool. Lucky Dragonite. Right, you're being muted for a bit. Lucky. Yeah. Morris brings up an interesting point, though. What happens if things are slightly different sizes? Well, maybe that's something we can play with as options in the future. Maybe you don't want things to scale, but at the moment, the concept is a tile is a tile. And I actually started to do some interesting things by playing around with the tile size, and it'll look really messy since we're painting into two. But there are situations you can put this in where you're painting tiles which are sort of changing in size or by messing around with the offsets and things. We'll not bog ourselves down with that right now. We never get anything done in CodeZone, but let's try and get something done tonight. So the next thing to do is to try and tie the selection to that MN selected variable. Now this could be a horrible mess of casting. I really just don't know at the moment. Lemsil, panning and zooming. Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you. Do you know what? I actually think that's probably the single most useful video I've put out on the YouTube channel. It's not the most popular by any means, but I think once people have got got panning and zooming working with stuff, you use it in everything afterwards. It's just that sort of ubiquitous user experience we're all familiar with. I mean, clearly I've got it enabled in this editing tool. It's just the same. I mean, it's slightly a bit more advanced. I'll show it. I love showing this feature off. It's a little bit more advanced, so it's panning and zooming, but if I hold down the control key, I've also got rotation and panning and zooming as well. So there's another feature there. And if I hold down the shift key, I've got skewing. I like showing this off. So all sorts of different properties that we can play with. It's a bit more complicated to do that than the panning and zooming video lets on. Principles are the same, but you start to need to jump into affine matrices. Right, anyway, we're tying together a change in the selection of the tree. So let's have a look at that. Where do I actually start? Let's start with the main frame, which receives events from things on the tree being changed. In fact, let's go and have a look. We've got a property called on select work object. There we go. So this is the function called when the tree changes. And we have a look at various things to see what changes about it. And you can see we pull in this this link, which tells us how to navigate our project structure in order to do something with it. Now, these were originally enum classes. I just reduced it. I was fed up with typing stuff out, so I just reduced it to basic numbers. I might go back to sort of making that a bit more verbose. On the whole, I think there does need to be a full Saturday afternoon of refactoring a lot of the names and placements of things. They've kind of changed now. Is that just a flex, or does it have its uses? I think the skewing one is useful for if you're doing isometric stuff, if you want tiles which are sort of quadrilateral shaped. I've got a feeling in the future we'll start looking at hexes as well, not the Wiccan spellcraft hexes, but sort of hex tiles. Rotation, I think, is just gives people that sort of flexibility. But the real reason that I wanted rotation involved in all this is twofold. Firstly, tiles is just a byproduct of what this editor is intended to do. This is actually going to be a vector editor, so we'll be looking at all sorts of geometry stuff in the future. And secondly, I get it for free because in the background I'm rendering everything with Pixel Game Engine 3, which can do all that stuff. So it's just there. Yeah, wasn't very good at hexes in the code jam, was I? So I did it for an hour and then gave up. This is too complicated. Right, so as you can see here, these are the particular selected constructions. So what have we got here? Let's just look at the depth of our tree. We pull this open. We've got sort of 3 layers of things going on. The first number, this ID1, tells us whether it's asset pack, static tile source, or construction. ID2, I think. Oh, I'm looking at ID3 there. Oh yeah, oh no, yes. ID3 is this. Right, so ID2 is there we go. ID2 is the first layer, and ID3 is the sublayer. Now, at the moment, constructions are the only thing that has a child that has children. The others, I can't actually foresee any other types doing that. But these are going to be the layers. Like in Photoshop, you can move them up and down and change them around, that sort of thing. So that is the layer being selected, and that's why we can actually set the properties of the 2 layers. At least I think we can. Did we try changing this? So I set that. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, there was another thing. Did you see how the name changed? That was really nice, right? So if I select the construction and change its name, it changes in both places, right? It's nice and live. I'll throw that in there. Okay, so that does actually seem like it's unique per object. Good. So that's working. So basically, we just need to make sure if we've got a construction selected, we need to tell it what that ID3 is, because that is actually equivalent to the selected layer. Right. Ugh. So selecting the properties, but how do I actually, which window do I tell it? Well, I can just basically tell everything in the editor that this is my selected construction layer. Seems like a bit of a catch-all cop-out, but it's not a bad way to go about solving this problem. So if we go to our editor interface class, It is going to be a mismatch of all sorts of things that change in and around the project. So we'll throw this one in here. We'll have another function, virtual void set construction selected layer. And it's just going to be const space t n layer. Perfect. Just hang on, I've just got a ping. Okay. Leave that there. Looking forward to the release of PGE3. So am I. Right, so we've added that one in there. Let's go and bang in, so I don't have to go and implement this all over the place. If we give all of these virtual functions just an empty body, nothing complains. There we go. Doesn't even have to do anything. Oh, hang on. Yep, save. But the one thing that does care about it is our laycon, this one, because see, this actually implements these virtual functions. Void set, what did we say? It's set construction. I've already forgotten. Look at that. What do we call it? What do we call it? What do we call it? Interface set construction. You know, I'm just going to copy it. There we go. Laycon. So this is the thing implementing editor interface. We now need to pass that through to the correct editor. Let's go and give a body to this one too. Because the editor has now been separated, and this was part of the fuss that I needed before. So we'll have a similar function. So now our layer selection stuff actually becomes lots of things. Good. Quick actions and refactoring. Let's add a body to that one. And we will simply set mn selected layer. Thank you, Deggy Noah. Deggy Noah. Nn selected layer equals n layer. And I think that's all I need to do. Is this a thing? Okay, do you know what? Just for the sake, since we've changed what the layer is selected, I'm going to throw in a refresh. Now, we might actually need to do a few other things at this function. Let's just have a quick look at what's going on in here. So we concluded that on the rendering side of things, the grid is set based upon the selected layer. So by calling refresh, we'll actually force a re-render. That looks like it's fun and games, that bit there. Grid image view, we should be setting the... So basically what we should start to see is that the grid itself changes. The content might not change, but let's just see if that actually does change the grid that's drawn. So let's compile that. So yeah, Diggy Noah, hello. I quite like doing coding in CodeZone. It's a bit of an unusual feeling. The downside is at the moment the compiles are taking a long time. I did try and sort this out, by the way. I think see, we shouldn't need to necessarily change absolutely everything all the time. And I think it's because I'm basically using OneDrive as the backing for all of this. OneDrive syncing is doing weird things. But I don't get it. If you change one header file and literally things that have nothing to do with it are starting to be recompiled. It does need a bit of a tidy up, this project. Time for a pch.h file. I think you're right. I think we're getting there. Although I've got larger projects than this professionally, I mean much larger, and I don't have that issue. So I don't use precompiled headers for those either. There's something weird going on with how Visual Studio is mapping things. And a little bit of advice for anybody. If you are using something that's automatically syncing, you might have noticed Visual Studio generates all sorts of junk in the background. And you don't want that syncing all the time. So what I've done is two things. Where am I looking first? Not there. If I go to Project Properties, I have set up an intermediate directory Where is it? General. Yeah, intermediate directory layer 4. Let's just go for debug 64. Called eDrive VS Junk. So that's with the project solution name, project name, platform configuration. So that's actually sending it to somewhere than the default location. In fact, it's sending it to a completely different drive. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be portable, but it's never now involved in the syncing of things. But still, Visual Studio will actually generate stuff in the project directory, which it purports to need. It's this mysterious .vs folder, and I can't seem to change the location of where that's created. You can quite safely delete that at any time. You might lose sort of which file you've got selected at any given time, and you get rid of. But there was one thing in that folder which was always hundreds of megabytes. In fact, it got up to about 2 gigabytes at one point, and I had to disable it. And Annie Cater from the Discord server helped me work out what that was. And I think I've already forgotten. But I think if you go to C++, advanced, you see it's really sort of buried in the options here. Where was it? Oh, can't see. I'll probably never find it now. It was something to do with. There we are. Not disable IntelliSense, but there was a way to disable sort of auto compilation, background compilation of header files. Where was it? That was it. Because it basically Visual Studio is constantly compiling your project, so it can give you all the red squiggles. But there was a problem with it creates sort of, if you've got header files with templates in, it creates this monstrous library of basically every permutation of header file it can think. So it can give you this very fast IntelliSense experience, which is quite nice. But most of the time, it's not needed. And I've already forgotten where the setting is for this. But it was also cryptically worded. It was like, don't disable the header file compilation, maybe, and then you had to choose true or false to get the right option. Typical programmer speak. Why OneDrive over, say, GitHub? Yeah, GitHub's a mess. The application is coming along quite. Thank you, Speedy. Yes, it is. Oh, thank you. Oops, Andrew. Subscribe on YouTube. I thought I'd disabled that. Can't MSVC be compiled with multiple computers? Well, it's got multiple cores, that's for sure. Oh, hang on, I've missed a few things. What are you working on professionally in very short words? At the moment, I am designing, well, helping to design. I oversee the design. Let me, I'm not trying to sound too pompous here. My team are designing a robot to inspect nasty parts of nuclear reactors. In fact, we have designed it. We're now on the 3rd iteration of it. So once they've been used, you don't get them back. So, hang on. Why? I have no problem with GitHub. In fact, I do actually use GitHub. It's built in. I do actually use it. See, here it is. But I don't like using GitHub to synchronize my code between two computers because I'm too. This is the wrong word. I'm too dynamic. I'll start coding now, chatting to you guys, and then I'll go to the kitchen where my laptop is and just start coding there as well whilst I'm making a cup of tea, and then I'll go and sit on the couch, and then I'll come back up here. And I don't want to have to keep every single time shoving things backwards and forwards between Git manually to try and synchronize these things. So I just have it set up on OneDrive, and it's the same thing on every computer I open. And that works for me, it just works for my process. But when I do sort of make major changes and sort of more incremental changes, I suppose, as well, I do tend to use the Git to keep track of it. You don't get the robot back, can't they just hose it down? You can. And at a push, if you had to, but that's actually really expensive to do. Because once it goes into certain environments, it becomes a controlled good. So it becomes very difficult to transport around. You need then, radiation trains and all that good stuff to move the goods. So it actually ends up just being cheaper that it just lives there and never comes out until the site is decommissioned. They don't just hose it down, by the way. They actually wipe it down. I've done this myself. I've actually been in these facilities and had to wear all of the radiation gear and things and clean and fix bits and pieces. But you're very limited. The sound of walking between rooms, coding on the fly. Yeah, you're not hardcore unless that's what you're doing. Right. Anyway, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. Let's not get too distracted. I've already forgotten what we were doing. We were setting this. So we're going to try running this. We're going to try running it and seeing if now selecting the two different construction layers actually changes the properties of anything. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. So let's set one of these to be 50 by 50. Well, did it change? I don't know if it changed. Doesn't look like it changed, did it? Let's just try something a bit more obvious. So let's pick you. We'll set you to... okay, we'll set you to 10 by 10. Something really obvious. There's our 10 by 10 grid. Let's select this one. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. So it's remembering the settings. So it's certainly we're definitely the property side of things working, but we're not updating the grid with the selection. So let's follow this through. Let's run some deep. I don't actually remember calling this function anywhere. That might be that might be why. I think I'm supposed to do that. We need to find see if we've got an editor now, which is a construction editor, and open that particular thing. Leaf ID 3. Right, actually, this is where it gets really, really tricky now. Because how do I know which editor's there? But the reason we've added it to this base, it's all happening at once, isn't it? It's like dynamic programming, yes. The reason we put it in the editor interface is like, it doesn't matter. I can just call it on all of them. I just splat all of them and say, look, this is what's been selected. So now let's iterate through all the layers. Now, why am I scrolling? Because I'm sure I've got this code somewhere. I'm just going to steal it. Let's have a look. There we go. All the editors that are open. I genuinely don't care about anything. I just want to grab that and splat it in. That's our editor. The page, because they all share this base class now, that should be page that. Ta-da. Is that going to work? So it doesn't matter what the page is. We're just going to basically tell all the editors that the construction selected. Because you're never going to have hundreds of editors. And don't forget, this is GUI. It doesn't matter if things are like not 1,000 frames per second. We'll be all right. So it behaves quite nicely if you just have a change in a CPP file. It just compiles to one. But any change in a header file, even if it's unrelated, causes the whole project to be recompiled. Let's just try that again. So construction, static tiles, let's pick that one first. So this one we'll set to 20 by 30. I don't know, something a bit weird. And this one, oh, still not setting it. Still not setting. That seems to have set it to both. All right, well, we need to get the debugger out and see what's going on. This is the fun bit. Let's go to our Lacon edit function. Is this ever being called? Have a look. Control and F10. Well, it doesn't look like it's ever being called, so that's probably our problem. So let's go up a layer and see why is that ever being... Oh. Is that the problem? No, that's not the problem. Lacon edit. Just going to quickly bang an override in there just for the sake of it. Oh, it's not overriding on this one, is it? That was, yeah, okie dokie. So it's not actually this one that gets called. It's the Lacon editor Lacon. It's this one, which doesn't do anything. But we need to call our construction editor. Right, where's that stored? There we are, MP editor. That's the one we want. Right, MP editor. what did we call the function? Like a set construction. That was it. Set construction. Ooh, it's not there. This is not going well. MP editor. Why is that not there? Construction layer editor panel, which is this one. Construction layer editor. Editor panel. Editor panel. Editor panel. Where's my thing? Oh, because it's protected. Right, we need to make that public. Right, let's go back to our layer, this one. Yeah. Set construction. That should be available now. Set construction selected layer. There we are. And layer. Ooh. So that should now be calling it through. Right. Let's try that again. I keep hearing, I think there are some notifications popping up. I've actually got my thing on pretty quiet today, just in case. You see, we've changed one header file, and look. Nothing to do with some of these. Strange. Let's try that again. So make sure it's calling, so it's not crashing, so that's a good start. And we'll just change this one to 10 by 10. Now we'll select here. Ah, there we go. So we're now selecting the two layers. So that's quite nice. So the two layers have different properties. Now we don't want to be drawing into the two layers. So this grid, both layers are actually being drawn, but the grid that the user interacts with is, of course, only related to the layer that's being selected. The problem we've got right now, let's just open our test pack, so we don't have to set it all up again. Maybe we should get this to explode when we open a new project to sort of show everything. I'll pull up the construction. There's our thing. Remember, we've got stuff set up in two different layers. So if I set this one to 10 by 10, it's drawing to both layers simultaneously, which is why we've got that effect. So let me just pull up the arcade items thing. If I start to draw a coin into here, see, it's drawn it into both layers. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's very interesting. That's going to need some thinking about, isn't it? The clipping for that layer is currently being applied with this clipping grid. So the wrong clipping is being applied to the layer as it's being drawn in the background. So as you can see on that one, it's being clipped to basically whatever we can see in this layer at the moment. So that's something else that we need to sort out. Oh, good. We're getting there. Auto mod has held a message. Will you post it to chat? Hello, sorry for bothering you. I want to offer promotion of your channel, chatbots. The price is lower than any competitor. Nah, it's alright, mate. I've got 300,000 followers on YouTube. Don't worry about it. Didn't I? So yeah, so we've got some sort of like selection problems there. That's interesting. Okay, we'll come back to the clipping side of that later on. So if I select this grid, basically now we're overdrawing this one because the clipping is working, but we'll be drawing all of these tiles in regions we can't see, so that we need to sort of separate the clipping between the two layers. Good. Yeah, it sounded like a legit offer, didn't it? I've never noticed that sort of thing before on Twitch. Sort of, I don't know how they're doing it. What are they sending me some sort of I don't use Twitch at all. Are they sending like a private message or something? Is that what it is? It's popping up. Anyway, one of the mods should have been on it. Not saying anything, Dragonite, but you know, that little sword next to your name. Do you prefer streaming in this category over the software development one? Yeah. Do you know, it's simply because when I first started streaming on Twitch, there wasn't a software development category. I really don't. one of the strange things people find when they sort of interact with me live like this for the first time is I'm not a creator that's trying to grow a following. I just like doing what I'm doing. So yeah, okay. So we'll paste that. So you can see it's accidentally drawing into both things at the same time. Right. Let's go and have a look at that then. So we want to just paint now into a specific layer rather than both. Oh, we're actually overrunning. We're overrunning, but to the tune of 10 minutes. It was flagged as suspicious by Twitch. Yeah, thank you, mods. Let's go back now to our editor and start playing with the function. Because I think this is the cause of all of our problems. We've obviously already got the layer selected with this base layer. So I think we're just going, why am I iterating through them all? I have no idea. The reason might be because I've pinched some of that code from, yeah, it looks like that, doesn't it? So where I'm drawing everything, that's quite, except for the clipping, that's quite legit. Now that's an interesting thing we will have to try and sort out because I want the clipping to be based on the layers as I'm drawing them. Okay, I have to have a think about that. But let's, for the time being, replace this with something more relevant. What is our layer? There's our selected layer is less than that, so we just want to grab layer. If it is, let's call it, so it's the same thing, we'll just call it auto base layer equals p construct vec layers mn selected layer. There we go. So that should stop us doing multiple things at the same time. Just have a quick glance at this clipping code. Because I think it might just be creative copy and pasting to get this to work. That bit is it that bit? Yeah, it's the. Oh no, that's setting up the tile layers. That's setting the size. That should all be okay. But it's the clipping. Where's that based? I think it's that one that's causing us the problem. So grid cells needs to be based on the actual layer. So let's just jump down here. And we'll set grid cells to be the selected layer, P layer. Ooh. Hang on, base layer, isn't it? Yeah. What have we got in here? What looks useful? Ooh, yeah, this could get a bit fiddly. We might need to add some stuff to make this work because I need to cast it to a tiled layer. So we need to bring this actually down even more. Draw self. It actually isn't that simple. It's mv grid cells equals p dot get layer size. I think. So it's that one which is setting the clipping for how many cells are drawn given the current view space. But I think this all needs to be in here as well. Because that's actually the thing doing. We shall see. We shall see. Maybe it'll work for getting us out of this hole right now. And just before we forget about that, let's nasty, disgusting hack. I'm just going to throw that in here just in case. Right. Okay, complicated little hack and a bodge going on there. Jason Odinberg, hello. Which reminds me when I was learning Java. Oh, thank you. Good, good, good. Yeah, that's hopefully what I tried to do with the channel. It is C++, but you can actually... the ideas are more important than the language. It's all just syntax at the end of the day. I've been learning Kotlin myself recently, and it's disgusting. Right, let's have a look. Let's see what happens now. What I did like about Kotlin though was that it just interacts with Java. There's like literally no fuss. Let's open up a workspace. Open. Oh no. Space open. Right. We might have just broken things here messing around with that selection tool. So if I set, let's set this grid to something a bit smaller, just so we can see what's going on. Okay. Yeah, see, I think that we haven't solved our clipping problem. We've probably just made it worse and more confusing. But we might have, at the same time, fixed. This is a big if. We might have fixed our drawing problem where we were drawing into multiple layers at the same time. Let's pick something from here. Let's pick a layer. That's not the right one. Let's pick this layer. But it's drawing it behind. Oh, right, okay. This is getting quite confusing to work out what's going on. Yeah, there we go. So we have actually got multiple layer going on. We've just got a tremendous mess with a sort of layer visibility and the ordering of the layers. That's interesting that it's actually choosing to render the layers in a strange order. That's which is the first layer it's trying to. I can't work out which is the background and which is the foreground. So I think it should be rendering that one first, and then it renders this one on top, which is the smaller one. So let's name those background and foreground. So the background layer, yeah, I don't know what's going on. It must be something to do with the clipping. It's rendering both all the time, but because we're clipping out basically some of the visibility, that's why it looks like one's going behind the other. Okay, that's understandable. And the foreground layer is a much lower resolution. Let's just, for simplicity's sake, let's just dial things back and see if we can make things work a little bit better. If we set things to be the same size, at least that takes the clipping issue out of the equation. So let's go to our background layer and choose some nice blue. So this is where I don't have proper drawing tools yet, so apologies for all the clicking. Right, but that looks like it is actually doing some background drawing. Let's go and zoom in a bit. Let's just slide you over there for a minute. Good. Let's go down to a clear bit of the world down here. So we'll just quickly bodge together a bit of level. So this is all back. At the moment, I can only do this sort of single cell thing. I know it's not ideal, but let's now pick a bit of. So this is this should now be foreground. Okay, so we place that in the foreground and that one in the foreground. Okay, yeah, we can see that it's actually covered in the dots. Now we take a thing, right? Good. Okay. Now, traditionally, I guess in Photoshop and things, they have what's drawn first at the top of the list. We have to look at that too. Let's have a look. Haha, Kotlin. Demonstration size, easy to apply the ideas. Yeah, Morris is actually pretty good at stuff like that. Lots of stuff going on. Yeah, there's lots of things going on today. DDA, Raycast, everything. Oh, good. I'm pleased. There will actually the YouTube channel isn't dead, by the way. I am having a bit of a hiatus just whilst I raise my little one. At least get them to a point where they can, you know, code. Hey, I get Bing GPT as part of my Office 365 package. It's pretty cool. I've been using the image generation. Yeah, I noticed you'd stole my my warped sprites code, Morris. Perhaps something in the future. It'd be good to see what you're drawing if behind other layers. Yeah, so you're absolutely right, TGD. My intention is to basically have a slider for every layer, so you can basically set the opacity for everything. So there is actually facility for drawing those. We'll add that later because I think that's essential. You want visibility icons here. So maybe we even have a slider here or a lock, and switch on and off because that's necessary. You're right. But that seems to be. It's a bit of a mess with the clipping. I need to go and look at why that is. It's just the order of commands that get drawn in the rendering. But actually it allows us to select and edit layers. And hopefully we've not added any code to handle this, but we should be able to save that. And the boilerplate just work. Let's go and have a look. Workspace open. No. This construction. Yeah. There it is. Yep. Nice. Like it. We've not at any point programmed it to handle multiple children. It just does. Good. Yeah, pretty pleased. I'm pleased with how this is coming together. That's a nice big step because as soon as I get sort of painting done of the stuff, then we can actually start to work with more realistic looking assets and scenarios. And that becomes more fun. It becomes more visual. And we can start playing with some of the more creative tools. Good, good, good. Yeah, thank you, Johnny G. Thank you. Hey, we've actually overrun by quite a bit today. It's been a much longer stream. That's what happens when I code in a CodeZone. We get a bit carried away. Right, until next week, take care. I'll be on the Discord server. We should play the outro video, shouldn't we? We haven't got an outro video yet, but we'll do the intro again. Everybody, take care. Thanks a lot for the subs as well. See you later.